check out our streaming schedule for this week. We've got tons of content in terms of the NFL and college football, as we're going live just about every single day this week. So make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single moment where we go live. And now, on with our feature presentation. October 13, 2024. It's week 6 of the NFL season, and we head to Baltimore for one of the hottest tickets of the entire year, as we've got the Battle of the Beltway between the Washington Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens. This in-state rivalry is a huge game for geographic reasons, but it's also a huge game just in terms of the importance on the standings. For the main team in our story, the Washington Commanders, they find themselves entering this game with a shocking 4-1 record, as the Commanders, led by quarterback Jaden Daniels, have definitely been the pleasant surprise of the season. Get a win here and stay more than a game up on the NFC East and beat a team that is one of the best in football on paper, and you officially prove to the world that you are here and you are not a fluke. Don't win this game thanks in part to poor coaching down the stretch, and yeah, we'll get to that. But before we do get to that, if you like learning more about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL, then this is the place for you, because we talk about all things NFL history all the time with a new video every single day. So if you like that sort of stuff, then be sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Thanks in advance for your support as we try and hit 70,000 subscribers. As for how this game was going, the bad news for the Commanders was that they found themselves down 30-23 with just under 3 minutes left in the contest. Things were looking bleak for Washington, especially seeing as their defense wasn't able to stop Baltimore all day, which seems to be a common theme for the Commanders this season. At this point, after the Commanders kick it off deep, the Ravens are faced with 2nd and 8 with 2:44 left, and the Commanders have one timeout to work with, plus the 2-minute warning. Then, Derrick Henry, the future Hall of Fame running back, proceeds to do Derrick Henry things, and runs for a gain of 27, picking up the first down. Alright, that's not good. Obviously, that's really not good, but if you're Washington, you've got to take a timeout here to stop the clock and give yourself more time to work with if you get the ball back. Dan Quinn? You gonna use that timeout there, buddy? The clock is running. You do see the clock is running, right? Why are you not taking a timeout? Why are you screwing yourself over and letting the clock run? Why are you not taking a timeout? Dan Quinn, why are you not taking a timeout?
2 one-of-a-kind players, Jim.
That's it.
And you put them together on the same team.
2-minute warning. You're watching the NFL on CBS.
Welcome to Dumb Decisions. Before I break down what happened here, this whole series is about taking an in-depth look at decisions made during games that were clearly awful from the start. This isn't something to look bad in hindsight. Rather, this is something to look awful almost immediately. These are moves where your gut instinct tells you right away that there is no way this can possibly work. And sure enough, your gut instinct was smarter than that of an NFL head coach. And for this one, we're going to take a look at the mind of Washington Commanders head coach Dan Quinn. Obviously, Quinn has done a great job thus far with the Commanders, even if he was brought in as an offensive coach and the defense is downright putrid. I actually thought his timeout management at the end of the first half was nothing short of brilliant. He recognized that time wasn't an issue for the Ravens, seeing as they had a short field. So he called his timeouts every time there was a running clock, and that management ended up giving the Commanders plenty of time to get the ball back and eventually get 3 points. He thought 6 steps ahead there. He knew how to use his timeouts there. And yet, he completely bungled the timeout situation here. He completely forgot how to use them, because even though it wasn't likely that the Commanders were going to win the game if he was smart and he took the timeout right away, he didn't exactly help their cause. I know that much. So with that being said, let's take a look at why not calling a timeout with 2:30 left and instead letting it run all the way down to the 2-minute warning is a really bad idea. Let's explain the situation really quickly before we bust out the chalkboard, which honestly, at this point, I think I need a new chalkboard because I've worn this one out. Let's explain what happens if you don't call a timeout, period, and you end the game with 1 timeout in your back pocket. The Ravens take it down to the 2-minute warning, and with a 40-second play clock, the Ravens can just take a knee 3 times and end the game. So obviously, you have to call a timeout. You must call your timeout at some point to stop the clock and save time, because if you don't, the game is over. And what this means is that you want to maximize the amount of time that you have available at your disposal to score and find a way to get the game-tying touchdown or the game-winning touchdown if you decide to go for 2. Obviously, it's not going to be easy. No one said it was going to be easy. And because of that, you want to have as much time as possible. Every extra second counts, and could be an extra play, or could open up more of the field. And with that in mind, let's take a look at what any sane coach would have done in this spot, and that is to take the timeout right after the Ravens got a first down. Now, you can take the timeout with 2:30 or 2:20. It doesn't really matter when you take it, so long as you take it before 2:10 or 2:15. I'm just going to assume for simplicity's sake that they take it at 2:30. But again, a few extra seconds here or there doesn't matter when it comes to this particular scenario. Obviously, no matter what happens, if the Ravens get another first down, the game is over. So we're going to assume that you get a stop, because that is, quite literally, the only way to get the ball back. First down, and the Ravens run the ball. That takes 5 seconds, so run it down to 2:25, and then the clock goes down to the 2-minute warning. Second down, and the Ravens run it at 2 minutes, which takes 5 seconds off the clock and goes down to 1:55. Take 40 seconds off the play clock to get it down to 1:15. Third down, and the Ravens run it, which takes 5 seconds off the clock to 1:10. Take 40 seconds off the play clock afterwards to bring it down to 30. I don't know if the Ravens are kicking a field goal from over 50 yards and risking good field position with a miss, or they're just punting it away. But regardless, if we assume that the fourth down play takes 7 seconds, you're going to be getting the ball back with 23 seconds. Is that a lot of time? Obviously not, but it's something. It's better than the alternative, which we're about to find out. Because now, let's look at what happens if you don't take the timeout right away and let it run all the way down to the 2-minute warning like Dan Quinn decided to do for some reason. First down, and instead of calling their play with 2:30, the Ravens are calling their play with 2 minutes. This means that when the play takes 5 seconds off the clock, it goes down to 1:55. At this point, the Commanders take their timeout. Second down, and the Ravens run 5 more seconds off the clock down to 1:50. Take 40 seconds off the clock and take it down to 1:10. Third down, and the Ravens run it, which takes 5 seconds off the clock down to 1:05. Take 40 seconds off the clock for the play clock, and it goes down to 25 seconds. Again, I don't know if the Ravens are kicking the field goal or punting it, as it's dependent on a few things. But regardless, assuming that special teams play takes 7 seconds, you're getting it back with 18 seconds left. So let's break it down. In both options, you do everything exactly the same. In both options, the Ravens do everything exactly the same, since they're going to run 3 times regardless, and they aren't throwing it. The only thing that changes is when this man right here decides to call the timeout. If you call the timeout right away and get a stop, you get the ball back with 23 seconds left. If you don't call the timeout right away and get a stop, you get the ball back with 18 seconds left. So which gives you more time to score? Which gives you a better chance at scoring? The option with 23 seconds left, or the option with 18 seconds left? Obviously, it's the one with 23 seconds. It's the bigger number. The difference between 23 seconds and 18 seconds might not seem like a lot, but at this juncture in the game, that's huge. That's the difference between having 5 plays and having 4 plays, or having 4 plays and having 3 plays. As an easy example of how that can matter, let's say your first pass falls incomplete, and on second down, you see something wide open over the middle of the field that gets a huge chunk and sets you up for a Hail Mary near midfield. If you see that, and you get the ball back with 23 seconds left, you can throw that ball and have everyone get to the line in time to spike it. But if you see that, and you get the ball back with 18 seconds left, you probably can't do that. The entire field shrinks. Not only do you have one less play to work with by mismanaging the timeout situation, but the field shrinks as well. It just doesn't seem to make any sense as to why you wouldn't call the timeout in that spot. You save 5 seconds, and you have to burn the timeout anyway. We've already established that fact. And yet, we constantly see teams butchering this situation, and we see head coaches refusing to call the timeout before the 2-minute warning, even though it's very obvious that this is what you do in that spot. We saw it in Week 1 with Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos against the Seattle Seahawks. which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. We saw it in Week 1 with Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers against the Philadelphia Eagles, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. And there are so many other examples that you can point to that I'd be here all day if I listed them all. However you want to slice it, it's bad. And those 5 seconds could have been extremely valuable in potentially mounting a drive down the stretch. Obviously, there are spots where you have to weigh the difference between the extra seconds that come off the clock and having a timeout in your back pocket. And there will be times where having the timeout is more valuable. Having it back with 1:45 and a timeout versus having it back with 1:55 and no timeouts is an actual situation where you might not take a timeout. But if you've got to burn the timeouts anyway, and we established that you had to do it, then you have to use the 2-minute warning to your advantage and maximize the amount of time that you have left. And safe to say, Dan Quinn did not do that here. Now, when it came to the game between these two teams behind me right here, it ultimately would not have mattered if the Commanders took the timeout before the 2-minute warning or if they took it when they did after the 2-minute warning, because the Ravens ended up getting another first down, thereby ending the game, albeit with some skirmishes afterwards. But it doesn't change the fact that what Dan Quinn did here was really stupid, because it denied his team a chance at a few extra seconds with no risk whatsoever if they got the ball back and it was still a 1-score game. One of these days, teams are going to realize that the 2-minute warning is not just a crutch, and you can use it to your advantage as that 4th timeout. But today, or Sunday I should say, was very clearly not that day. For Dan Quinn and the Commanders, it was very clearly not that day. So what do we learn from all of this? Let's just call this a general rule of thumb. If you must burn your timeouts in order to get the ball back, and there is no scenario whatsoever where you can get the ball back without burning your timeouts in the process, and the other team calls a play before the 2-minute warning, where the clock will wind down to the 2-minute warning upon its conclusion, then take the timeout. For the love of God, take the timeout. You are giving yourself 5 fewer seconds to work with if and when you get the ball back. You are giving yourself 1 less play to work with if and when you get the ball back. You are making it harder on yourself for no reason. If you make anything in life harder on yourself for no reason, like you decide to retype everything instead of just using the copy and paste feature, that's a dumb decision. And a football game is no different. It's hard enough to score and drive down the field as it is. So you might as well give yourself the most number of plays and the most amount of time to do it, as to do otherwise is coaching malpractice. Because when all these elements are in play, you can't exactly be surprised when this play backfires. Talk about a dumb decision. Be sure to like and subscribe if you have not done so already, as it helps the channel out a lot. And check out my other channels, JG8 for the history of college football, JG7 for the history of baseball, and JG9 News, where we talk about all things happening in the NFL. Join me every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we'll play live NFL trivia for cash prizes. And make sure to join me live, as we're on stream just about every single day. And thanks to all our Patreon members and our YouTube members for helping out the channel. See how you become a member and show your support financially in the description down below.